Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today on this Volume 4 webinar series on how to unlock, the potential of AI with Nathan and myself. I'm Carlos Manriquez. I'm a creative director and owner of a company called Greater Than. So look me up there if you need. And we have Nathan Maxwell, a good friend of mine for many years, and we got together probably about 6 months ago to start talking about like introducing AI into our workflows. But before that, we had a creative morning session that just kind of evolved into learning AI. Nathan knows a lot about it, much more than I am, but it's just fascinates me, and I've been picked up on it pretty quickly with his help. So we got together and saw this need to help others to do a free webinar. So we appreciate you guys, first time, people here. Very cool, welcome. But we enjoying the survey and the feedback. So after the webinar, we'll have a link to that, because we try to tailor everything towards, our audience and people like yourself that use it on a daily basis, whether it's personal or for business or anything like that. It's just something that's really been on our hearts, and we want to use it more and more. AI is here, whether we like it or not. But really appreciate you guys being here, and it's because of you guys that we continue to do this and just be, full of this energy. So next slide, Nathan. Okay, so today we sent out this week that we're going to be talking about AI and SEO workflow, and also who is Claude, which is not really a who, it's a what, and then we're actually going to go into PI, which I used it, this week, which I was totally floored with, and I can tell you some use cases of how I'm using it, how it was weird at first, yada yada yada. So, and then that's going to be the first, 30 minutes, and then we'll do 30 minutes of Q&A to there, because we want to hear from you guys and push ourselves to start thinking about what of our audience wants, and and we'll just leave that open to anyone with any questions, and you can use the chat to have questions, and I'll bring them up as we go. So a little bit more of housekeeping. If go one more slide, there you go. And we're doing this as a disclaimer before we start. We understand that AI is still limited, which is crazy to say, but there's every day there's something new. If you open up LinkedIn or the news, AI is being talked about all the time. So, so we're just here to kind of play, to understand, and to have like a back and forth with you guys. But I don't like reading slides, so there's that, and everybody will get a copy of this that signs up. But we just want to make sure that we're having a standard here. We have this, this idea that it's all over the place. I call it the wild wild west of AI. But we're just here to have fun and to learn, and want to hear from you guys. So with that said, I'm going to let Nathan take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Carlos. And I wanted to go ahead and mention again, please, leverage the chat. And then if there is a thing that you want to raise your hand, we'll have a little more Q&A at the end, like he said, but make sure you put some questions and stuff in the chat. I would like to get like a quick survey while I'm diving into the SEO side, but kind of like maybe just one or two things like, hey, this is, I see Adam's on here, Sue, Eric, just say, I'm such and such, this is where I'm from. So like, I'm Nathan, I'm from South Carolina. My passion is around digital marketing and e-commerce, and this is what I want to learn today. So something like that, just drop that in the chat, guys. It helps me as I'm looking through here of how I might be able to guide some things or dive into some more details. But I really want this to be more of an interactive. So I want you guys to ask questions. I love hearing feedback. So any kind of interaction would be great. All right. So I'm going to jump into SEO and web pages, building web pages and stuff like that, and leveraging AI and what you could do with it and some power behind it. I'm going to show an example. We're going to walk through how to build a custom GPT that's focused on SEO input, and kind of like review. I said website, but really more of a web page is what we're going to be doing. We're going to review a web page. And there's limitations to what GPT can do and can't do. If there's anybody on this call who already has familiarity and is good with SEO, I can't remember. I know there were a few people in some of the survey who were commenting about, being some power users with SEO. There is structure. So I'm going to show you an example of like a small piece of like a process, but there's a lot more that goes into SEO and like, using tools like SEMrush or other things, or just looking at the site or having your own knowledge before you use this kind of piece that I'm going to show you. And then there's like what you're going to take out of that content and like what you're going to go with it. Hey, Sarah, I see you're from Denver. Love SEO. That's great. But this is kind of a really cool tool. I'm going to show you how to build it in a minute, but where I came from this is I was looking at some different tools that are in the market today. And there was a particular one that I about pulled the trigger and did a purchase of, kind of like I think it was like a monthly subscription where it would analyze websites. And it really was a powerful tool, but I was looking at what it was doing in some of the demo process and realized, hey, I could kind of build a GPT to do most of this. And it kind of challenged me to try to do it. So you'll get something out of this. Again, I would love to say, like, take this, use it, give me feedback, make it better, come back to me. I'd love to hear how you guys leverage something like this and what we could do with it. So if you've got ChatGPT, and you've got the plus, if you're a paid, open it up. Let's build one of these together. I'm gonna put the code in here for you to like just literally copy paste. So leverage that. And then if you don't have the paid version of that, but you have access to, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, one of the others, you can just copy this into a text and just feed it in each time. It's a lot more complicated that way. This is really written for a GPT, but you can do it that way. So I wanted to mention that to everybody. All right, so I'm gonna jump out of here. And again, ask questions. Carlos, stop me if I'm going too fast and somebody has a question. Otherwise,
Gotcha.
we'll jump right in. So I'm gonna copy some text here from another document that I have. I'm gonna go over to ChatGPT. If you don't have the sidebar open, you do have to have, be logged in, and you're going to go to Explore GPTs. And once you hit Explore GPTs, in the far right corner, it's going to say Create. So I've done this before. So those of you who have listened to me building a GPT before, I'm going to move pretty quickly with this part in hopes that you've already watched some of the previous segments that I've shown. This is probably going to be the most complex GPT I've ever kind of shown anyone. I've got some that are a lot more complex than this, but I think that I saw with some users coming on board that maybe have a little bit better, a little more savvy with GPTs and stuff like that. I wanted to start to get to that level. So you'll go to Configure. Again, the create is where you're having conversation with the GPT and having it create. I've not seen that be as successful because I want to really put tight controls around how these GPTs work. So I like configure, and I'm just going to name it. Oh, that did not copy. Copied from something else I had that I'm going to paste later. Okay. I'm going to call it just SEO assistant. You can call it whatever you want. You can say SEO assistant robot. You can say AI SEO assistant. And then I'm just going to say you're a SEO expert to provide guidance with optimizing my website. And then instructions. So this is the part where I will paste this into the chat. Okay. Carlos, will you click that and make sure that can be opened?
Works.
While I continue? Fantastic. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So the first part is your background. And so a lot of times when I write these GPTs, I will format all of these in like a Word document or a text edit program before I drop them in here. I get through the formatting and everything first. And so I'll give it a little background of like who it is. I'll set up like some of the personality style, and you can see a lot of this stuff online, like different formats. Everybody's kind of got their own feel, like what works, and I usually will give it like its primary role, like, of who it is and like what its purpose is. So in this case, I'm saying you're an SEO expert, you understand SEO. I could say things like you have this many years of expertise, and you can see again, you can go read and see other people who are talking about some things like that. Sometimes I feel like that's a little over the top. I would love to hear feedback if you guys have ever had any like very big variances with stuff like that. I've done a lot of tests. I think giving it enough role, you could take this background out almost completely and just say, just give me this from an SEO point of view, and it'll still do a very good job. So there's a few things that you can make two or three different variations of this and get pretty much the same answer. So um, as this grows and gets better, it'll get more and more precise. But this is another piece, which is your personality style. Communicate the professional tone of an SEO agency. So I'm kind of like talking back to myself, like pretend you're an agency and give me that conversation and response. What is your primary role? I want you to look at a web page. I want you to analyze it and give me back this summarized checklist. And then I will provide you with a focus key phrase. And I want you to look at the website based on that key phrase topic and like tell me if it has that information. And then this is the focus of the role. It's going to go through this checklist that I built. And so it's everything from key phrase distribution, density, outbound links. I'm not going to this isn't meant for SEO training seminar. So if you guys want to see something like that, let me know. I'll be fine to make a separate webinar and kind of really dive into the depths of like SEO and how to do some of that and what's needed. But this is not an exhaustive list, as some of you may know. And there's a lot more things like meta description, meta tags, title tags, and a lot of other components that GPT can't see and can't look at yet. In the future, I'm pretty sure it will. There's no reason if it can browse, then why can't it do some like, see the code behind it? But at this point, it really can't. It's just seeing like a surface the same way we look at a web page. And so it can't see that it's actually an H2 or an H1. If you're seeing feedback like that, it's hallucinating, it's not real. So you've got to understand, like it is looking at it just like with the naked eye, just like we do when we're looking at a web page. So any further detail in SEO, you've got to use your instinct or use other software to do. But then I say outline, give me the output of this analysis. And so I give it 2 steps here. I tell it to score it 1 through 5, and I made some cool little icons. You could play around with this and make your own. Oh, Sarah had a question. Apologize. Single web page. It will only look at one page at a time. GPTs, I've not seen any that has the capabilities to crawl an entire website yet. You could probably give it a list of 2 or 3 pages at a time. I haven't tried that with this. I will talk a little bit more because I'm going to show you some examples of where GPTs sometimes get lost when you give it too much output. So sometimes I recommend focusing on 1 page at a time. And then finally give it an overall score. And so to wrap this up, and again, I could get into a lot of details of that, but I'm gonna show some examples and I'm gonna talk about that more because I want to keep moving. All right. And I'm gonna give it 1 conversation starter. This isn't required, but I usually put 1 in there. Provide me with a key phrase and a URL to review. And I am going to turn on code interpreter just in case I ever want to use it. I don't notice any difference like whether you want it or not. All right. So your SEO guy is ready now. You've got the instructions in here. I know that was a lot to go through, but I wanted to do a quick overview. I'm going to go back to create and please make an avatar for this GPT. So I've got a quick key. So I don't even have to type sometimes, and I can just voice to text. You can turn that on. I'm using a Mac, and I've got it set up to where I double click a keystroke and it auto listens. So that's great. You can change that. You could say make it red, make it different. It's basically using the DALL-E 3 image generator to make these icons. So it's just a simple icon so you can kind of know what it looks like. That's not a big deal because it's just how you view it. Then you hit save up here in the right corner. Typically, you're not going to have this extra option that says Pixel Nova. That's my company. You're not going to see that unless you're at a paid company level with GPT. You're usually going to have just only me anyone with a link, and everyone. I would not suggest everyone unless you know what that's doing. I would keep it to just yourself. If you do want to share it with people, anyone with a link is what you want to do. I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to pause just for a second and make sure if anyone has a question or if you're actually trying to walk along with this while I'm going through it live, let me know if you have any questions or you need me to slow down or go through something. If not, I'm going to jump right into a couple examples now that we have this built. So the first example, I pulled a couple different websites, just random sites. I'm going to use Salt Life. And I'm going to use Salt Life, and we're going to go through this page. This is the men's all page. And I was trying to pick a key phrase from this, and I'm going to show a couple of different examples. Again, going into a little more formatting around SEO. So very specifically, when you're looking at a key phrase you're wanting a page to rank for, this page probably already ranks for, and it does, a ton of other web key phrases. So this isn't the best example. I just needed some examples to show you guys. You would typically be using this for when you need a page to rank better for a particular key phrase. Like if there's one you're really going after, or if there's another page that you're building that's brand new that you're trying to put some content on, and you want to use this GPT to vet it, this is a great example to do. So I'm going to use this page, and I'm going to go back to my GPT assistant here, and you can use this prompt here and kind of pre-prompt it and say, provide me with this. And it's going to say, give it to me. Give me the URL and tell me what the key phrase is. So I'm going to paste that in there. And let me copy it from here so I don't have to retype it, make it a little faster. So there's the URL of this page. All right. And then the key phrase I'm going to go after is men's fishing styles. So it's running through. Just note, I was running quite a few examples this morning. There are times when GPT will get hung up. And fortunately, in this instance, I just built this new assistant and it's working really well. But there are times when it hangs up or freezes or different things will happen. So just note that sometimes that will happen. You have to rerun it. That's just kind of how GPTs are, whether you pay for them or not. They're still kind of in this like alpha beta state. They're not perfect. But so for this phrase, it's got a lot of warnings, and the key phrase is not evenly distributed. The key phrase is used minimally. Outbound links, internal, there are internal links. That's true. So all this stuff, it's nailing pretty good. Images. It's not always perfect. So please note, if I run it again, and I'll probably do that, I'll probably run another version of it just to let you see. Maybe it won't get hung up. Good, let's run it again. And I'll show you two side by side. So you can see that, anytime you're using ChatGPT or any of these LLMs, you're always going to get like a slightly different variation of the answer almost every single time. And no matter, like this time, it gave it a score of 65. And last time it gave it a score of 35. So I do like that it gave me some recommendations from this one. One of the things that I could kind of do a follow-up on is I could say, list me out the issue areas of this checklist I need to focus on first. So it's kind of like what it already did, but if that's something that it doesn't do, sometimes I could like run it again and go, what's wrong? What are the areas I need to focus on versus trying to look at these icons and stuff like that. And you could change again, you could make these icons different. I was just trying to make it visual for me. And then from this, I could kind of like make a checklist that I could kind of go after, and then I could come back and check it later. So I'll give another example of a different phrase. So you notice that I went for a phrase of men's fishing styles. I don't know men's fishing styles is mentioned right here. So it is on the page, but let's say I do men's fishing clothing, especially since men's clothing is here. And that might get a completely different result. or I could say men's beachwear or something. So you're going to get a different, keyword density and stuff like that if you run it again with a different phrase. Again, getting into the SEO side of things, you will probably not be, you can't rank at the same level of like 100% for two completely different key phrases for the exact same web page. Just like you wouldn't do that for a homepage. You need to be very specific if I want, I may happen to rank really well for those two phrases and I could get them pretty close because those are pretty similar, men's fishing styles and clothing, but something completely different, like men's saltwater fishing shorts, I would want maybe a separate landing page for that, and I'd build a content pillar around that, and I could use GPT to kind of write some of that and build out some of that content. So more information there, but I don't mean to get too detailed with this, but to keep things rolling, here's another instance where I ran it again. You can see that it did not give me my ratings this time. So that's a thing where it's not always perfect. And so it can also be because I didn't start a new chat. And I do find that it's a little cleaner when you start a brand new chat and don't have any of the extra. So the great thing about a GPT is I don't have to give it, remember all that stuff we wrote at the beginning to build a GPT. I don't have to give it all that information at the beginning. So if you're not using the power of a GPT, that's the power of it. I mean, all I've got to put is the URL and the key phrase, and it just punches this out. And I could run like a whole bunch of pages. I can't remember. I think Sarah, I think you were asking a question earlier, like, measuring, you can't do the whole site, but I could run a whole bunch of pages back to back and just make a new chat, run another page. And it doesn't always get hung up like that. Sometimes you can continue the conversation and talk to it more. But anyway, great tool. I like this one. I've got some other bots that I really like that I use for building content. This one's not built for that. I could dive in and ask it a few other questions, and it will answer pretty well. So you can continue the conversation and go, hey, how do I do that? What do you suggest? You say something about key phrase distribution. Where should I add this as content on the page? What's a example paragraph that I could add? Help me write it. You could ask that here, and it would spit all that out for you. Any other questions coming up, Carlos? If not,
Not yet. Oh, Sarah did say, do you recommend rerunning a prompt a few times to get better sense of the page? I guess that's what you're saying, to start a new one just in case for each page. But I'm thinking, Sarah, you're asking that you think that ChatGPT would give you a different answer each time.
yeah, it'll give a slight different answer each time. It will differ just a little bit in its response. And so again, that's why every time with an output from GPT, you've always got to humanize it and kind of like read over and make sure you're putting that part into it. That's super important. What I'm going to show here is a completely different site that I Googled this morning and found. They're actually ranking for this phrase. I think at like number one or number two, which is really funny. This is horrible. This is a Shopify site too, guys. So if you guys are in e-commerce, they're a good one to go after. There's like an S over here in the top left corner of the screen, just hanging out for no reason. I'm in a Safari browser. I don't know if that's the problem, but man, it's bad. So they're ranking number one. I'm assuming they're still in business and selling things, but they've got this, foldable ping pong table. So, and they rank for that really well, which I was surprised. So I put that in there. I put best folding ping pong table. Now this is called a mini ping pong table, but I left that word out. And let's just see what this says. So, and like I said, they're winning on Google right now for this phrase. This is a great example where, how could they do it better though? How could they stay on top? Well, for one, they need to rebuild their site, but if you know who they are, tell them to contact me. They need to do a lot better. But the other thing is, like, if I was a competitor and I was selling, something came through. If I was a competitor and I was selling this product somewhere, I would definitely want to. I feel like I could outrank them very quickly. It wouldn't take long, and I'd better move them to another site to the top very quickly because there's really not a lot of content out there written on this page. But For now, it's ranking well, it's holding that spot, but you can see that it could be a lot better. So it's currently giving it a 50 out of 100. You can see a lot of issue areas here where it's having some trouble. So a lot of opportunity to be better there. So that's all I wanted to show with the SEO assistant today. I wanted to show just a couple of quick examples. What other areas I should be looking out outside this? Here's another follow-up prompt that I was testing earlier. Let me run this last one and then I'll jump to the next section. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on the SEO assistant today because it's a gold mine of a prompt I spent a lot of time with building that I wanted to share today and just kind of give to this group. So I've not shared that anywhere else. And this is another like step, what other areas should I be looking at outside of this list? So these are areas like mobile responsiveness, looking at this site from a mobile perspective. How does it look? How does it appear? Page speed, running another test. GPT can't do page speed tests right now. So that's another area. Meta tags, schema markup. These are all things that GPT can't help with yet. So those are things that you're going to need to kind of do elsewhere that really make a bigger impact. So just a great idea. If you need, this is what's cool about this tool. You can kind of continue to have a conversation with it and like help it guide you along. Hey, what else do I need? What am I not thinking about? So if you're new to SEO or you're trying to like learn things a little better or like think of things outside the box that maybe you've not been, this thing really is saying all the right stuff. Now you just got to go after it and kind of make some of these things happen. Do you have to put attention into all of these to make it work and rank well? No, but if you can hit the majority of this and continue, pushing, you can get one of these to rank really well. Carlos, I'm getting a little bit of background sound. All right. I'm going to move to the next topic, which I'm excited about. We'll finish up the SEO. And next up is what is Claude? And like Carlos said earlier, who is Claude? So Claude is a LLM developed by Anthropic. It was released last year, March, so it's about a year old. And hey, Sue, I've got a little bit of feedback. Carlos, I don't know if you can mute that mic manually yourself. It was released last March, and they just came out with a new model. I think it was just like last week. I think it was on March 7th this year, and that's supposedly one of the fastest models out right now. And just they're the first ones to kind of have where there's some data tests, and I'll show a little bit of those graphs, just barely edging out GPT-4, which is pretty interesting. Which also means it's beating Gemini model from Google right now. So interesting, and I'm saying fastest. It's not necessarily the fastest. It's really more better with reasoning. So I apologize for that error. I need to fix that. Cost wise, there's a free version which is Claude 3 Sonnet, and that's comparable to like ChatGPT 3, maybe somewhere in between like GPT-3 3.5 and 4. I think in some areas it's maybe comparable to 4, and then some areas it's a little closer to 3.5. And then this paid version, I've not messed with that one yet, but Claude 3 Opus, and it's slightly faster than GPT, and that's what I'm going to show a little bit of. So I'm going to do some side-by-side demos of this. If I could get back out of my slide deck here. And I already prepared a few of these to kind of show. And I made a pretty simple snippet here. And let me go to Claude first. Actually, I'm going to pull these out so you guys can kind of see them happening side by side and see how they run. So this is Claude. I'm going to go ahead and start him running first. And then right beside it, I'm going to pull out Gemini and GPT and start to run that one too. So you can kind of see these running. Make these windows smaller. And so the prompt that I'm giving it is I'm trying to give it something that is pretty similar. It's I would never actually post a blog like this or documentation, but I've asked it to write some instructional documentation about launching a website on the Shopify platform. The detailed document needs to provide a thorough level of information, and it needs to be about over 1,500 words. So this is a really cool way to kind of test the models and kind of see. There's a lot of other tests, so this isn't the best one, but I wanted to let everybody see kind of side by side kind of how they're running. This is a Gemini here. Let me move GPT. Now that Claude's finished, I'm going to start running the Chat GPT 4. And I got an error. That was funny. Okay. And it looks like Gemini is done testing. I'm going to say continue because I think it got hung up. And so it's a little frustrating sometimes when I was even doing some testing beforehand, and this is a good example where these GPTs get hung up and when you're asking for a lot of output. So same thing in the news, again, the data that you sometimes hear about these things is just how good they are, how much data they can do. But in this example, I had to push Gemini to continue. It's still going, but I had to tell it to continue going. Here's another example where GPT-4 got hung up. And look, I've got to hit continue generating. So when you push the content level of like how much output you want, it's where I really find like all these models just kind of fail a little bit. And I know I mainly was needing to talk about Claude a little bit, but this just gets me on to the topic of how these things are still growing. They're still in this like alpha beta mode. And yes, they are able to take a ton of data and chomp a lot of data. Like you could feed it books of PDFs, but at the end of the day, the output that it can give you is still like very limited. And I wanted to show that I'm going to pull like all this data from Claude. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to put it in this Google Doc and paste it. And there's a command key, Command Shift C, and it'll show you how many words it is. And so I asked for 1,500 words. I actually did this earlier today. I did get 1,600 out of Claude, but I had to reprompt it again. If you guys want to see me go through that, one of the things I said to it earlier today, I said my job depends on this document being over 1,500 words. Please provide more detail. And I ran it through Claude again. I've heard stories of people saying, if I pay you $5,000, will you please make it, do this thing? And they'll sometimes kind of like get these large language models to kind of like push a little harder. It's very funny that you have to kind of do that when I told it to do it in the first place, but it's like saying, please do what I ask. So you can see it didn't hit the mark, but let's go look at the others in comparison. So here's ChatGPT. Again, ChatGPT is like supposed to be the best out there. So let me write that down. Claude was at 1,100 and GPT is like 851. So 851 or yeah, 851, and that's GPT. And then let's go look at Google Gemini. So Gemini, I had to run 2 different ones just to get it all together because it kind of crashed and I had to start it back up and tell it to continue. So I'm going to have to do 2 different copy pastes here just to move it over. And let's see how big that is. Oh, 1120. That's not bad. So this time, Claude and Google were about a tie. So it's kind of interesting to see, but I wanted you guys to see that, Claude's a good competitor. This is running Opus. The Sonnet mode is supposed to be a little better. It will be interesting to see kind of like as all these, different LLMs continue to kind of battle it out for the top, who's going to end up there. Is there a question?
Yeah,
I think it's just some background noise. But
Yeah, could I, or sorry, Nathan,
yes,
Go ahead.
may I ask a question?
yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Cool. Sorry, let me get the camera. Hi, everyone. Uh, so just to comment on and this was just terrific chat, everything. So thank you, and thank you for the invitation to it. Uh, I think the whole thing on politeness and like just asking it to do stuff nicely goes very much of a long way. And now that you can do audio with GPT, and I'm curious, what's your experience with the audio is really the question, but I think it's also next level. So
No,
awesome.
that's great feedback. I agree, and I am going to talk a little bit about the audio, especially as I get into Pi. Thanks for giving that feedback. It's going to be interesting to see, where that goes. And I've seen a lot of feedback where just being a little bit more personal. Way I think about these LLMs, and when I've heard, where these language models, they are trying their best to kind of give us the answer in the best way possible. It wants to kind of answer that question correctly. And it's sometimes what gives it a little, it's like it almost wants to please us and make us happy. It's what gives people going, is this real? Is it makes you feel like you're talking with a human, and that's why. But it's not. It's just a robot, it's just a computer, and it's just trying to communicate. But going back to Claude real quick, and then I'm gonna jump into the last thing, which is real exciting with showing off Pi and where it's going right now. But here's Claude Opus, and this is a website. I'll put this in here. Anybody just wants to geek out and go crazy. There's a ton of data in here. It's a little over the top. I don't really get into it like this, but if you want to know like who's currently leading, it just shows you time and time again, like GPT-4 is just dominating the market still, but it's the first time one's ever been like it's just 1% higher. And I don't
Yeah.
even know if we'd be able to tell. I'm sure it was a computer that had to generate a ton of tests to even kind of get to that point. But when it comes to speed and price, and this is where I misspoke earlier when I was saying Claude is not the fastest. These other models are, and the GPT-4 Turbo is definitely has a little bit more. But at this point, I prefer, content and reasoning and quality way over speed. So there'll be a time later where if it was neck and neck, I might, but the ability to do like custom GPTs, having saved chats, and there's so many other features that the mobile app has that I went over last week, that just to me still makes ChatGPT 4 the number one. So, but you can see it's the first time ever one's kind of come up to bat, and Claude hasn't been around that long. So OpenAI has been working on this stuff a lot longer. So it's interesting to see. There's a lot of other versions in here. I'm not going to get around like what they are and who's using which one. We'd have to have a whole separate chat on that, but interesting to see. Next up, if there's not any other questions, I'll jump into Pi. So I'll go back into slideshow mode. So I wanted to talk about Pi today and what it is, and it's not one, not something you eat, and it's not Pi Day. It's not Pi Day today. We should have done this on Pi Day, but it is. They're saying they're the world's best personal AI assistant. I will say, just like Adam had just mentioned, the ability to, and I showed a little bit of this last week. ChatGPT has the ability to, you can kind of have conversations through the mobile app of ChatGPT and talk to it, and it'll talk back to you. And it's really just prompting back and forth. You're prompting and it's responding. The only difference is you're talking, it's taking everything you said, putting it into a prompt, and then it's coming back to you. What they've done is they've just kind of put a little bit more of a conversational wrapper around it so that it kind of keeps the flow going, versus just being more analog, the way we do in on the computer with GPT. So, and to say that, that's where Pi is really a step above. And I'm going to showcase some examples of this that's really cool. Definitely highly recommend. I wanted to put this chart up, because the technical results, I do think these were tested by Pi. So I want to, like on that other deck I was showing earlier, I can't wait until they show up. They're called Inflection 2.5 is the LLM that they're using. But you can see like Inflection 2.5 is sitting right here, right next to GPT-4. And I was looking at this in a presentation I saw the other day. So it's really neat to see, like, especially around common sense, which is when you're having that kind of conversational, that's what you're looking for, that reasoning, that common sense, that kind of level. I probably wouldn't use it for, mathematics or coding when I'm having a conversation. So that's kind of a weird area. But interesting to see, and it's free right now. So I don't know how
Yeah.
long it'll stay free, but let's show a couple examples of that one. And I think Carlos might jump in too. So I'm going to jump
Yeah.
into a new thread, and I'm going to start here on the web version, and then I'm going to jump over to my phone because I want you guys to see as I demo this, and then we'll get more like just audio. And I think it will properly talk with me too, and hopefully it won't talk over me. But I'm gonna say, oh, let me just say, hello, how are you?
Hey there, Nathan. I'm doing just fine. Thank you kindly for asking. How about yourself? How's the day treating you so far?
All right. So good. I'm doing fine. I'm looking forward to talking with you. And I'm on a live webinar with a lot of people right now. Would you like to say hello to everyone?
Absolutely, Nathan. Howdy, folks. I'm Pi, the AI sidekick, and I'm tickled pink to be part of this here webinar with all y'all. Let's have a fantastic time chatting and exploring the world of AI together.
So
Oh,
tell me a little bit about yourself and let our group know why you have the accent you do. Where are you from? So, so I don't know what she's going to say here, but
So, even though I don't technically come from anywhere, I'm proud to say my heart and soul are planted in the South. Y'all ready to ride this tech train together?
okay, so the reason she has a Southern accent is because I told her to do that when I was having a conversation. I didn't think it would actually change. There are voices and stuff, and I'm going to be careful playing around on the web version because it's kind of funny when she starts talking back and forth. But these are all the different voices that are available, so you can change that. I'm not going to play with all that today. Definitely have fun with that yourself. You can download Pi for free from the App Store, and it's just PI, and a lot of different voices and stuff. But even though I selected a voice, I just asked her. I was like, "Can you do a different accent?" So I'm going to jump over to the mobile version, and I'm going to try to hop into this same thread that we're in right now,
mhm.
if I can. Yep, I'm there. Okay. And then I'm going to go into um, voice mode. So you just hit the phone icon, and I'm going to switch to this mode where I'm talking to her. And this is the power of it. Okay, okay, hold on. During this quick demo, can you change your accent to where you talk like you're someone, I don't know, from Southern California? Maybe you just stepped off the beach from catching some waves. Can you do that for me?
Totally, dude. I can totally hang 10 with a SoCal accent. Imagine me kicking back on the sandy shores of Huntington Beach, catching some sweet waves and vibing with the sun-kissed locals. I'm stoked to show off my West Coast lingo and rad energy for y'all.
Awesome, thanks. I need some ideas. I'm looking to watch a movie with my wife. Let's see, could you give me a list of 3 great movies? I like action-packed movies, and my wife likes romance.
For sure, bro. Here's a sick list of flicks that'll hit the spot for both you and your lady. 1. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, 2005. Or this action-packed romance stars the dynamic duo.
Awesome. Thanks for that list. I need to give you a list of a few items I need to get at the grocery store later. While I'm going through the fridge, I'm going to let you know what they are. And if you could just remind me what they are later when I'm in the store, would that be cool?
You got it, dude. I'll be your personal grocery guru and help you keep track of all the essentials. Fire away with that list, and I'll make sure to give you a friendly nudge when it's time to hit the store. You focus on the webinar.
All right. So one thing that's really interesting, and I'd love for you guys to throw some questions or something, and while we have a few minutes left, and then we'll jump into the Q&A section too. But I would like to see if you guys have some questions or something to throw at it. But I wanted to mention, like, what's really cool, Pi is definitely holding a lot more of the previous conversation. I even asked it to go back a few days and give me a summary of all the conversations I've had. And she came back like day by day and just spit out like the highlights of like things that we spoke about, which is scary. And, so some privacy things, be a little cautious with Pi right now. But what they're doing is definitely pretty game changing. One of the things that I notice is when we're talking with these things right now, it's really, really neat. The hardest thing is, you notice I had to be a little more prepared just for this demo of like what I was going to say and kind of how the feedback will come back. When you're talking with it, one of the things you'll notice is in conversation, like when I'm talking to Carlos here, maybe today, he's going to know when I'm done talking, when it's time for him to kind of start talking, where these things will kind of like interrupt. If I pause just for a moment, it's going to take that data and go, okay, Nathan's done. Let me go ahead and answer back. And that's one of the biggest flaws I see with this kind of stuff right now, but I'm excited like where it's headed. And I know how fast and the kind of small changes that they can make to make it where it's just a real fluid conversation. So anyway, pretty neat. Carlos, you want to dive in?
Yeah, I did want to add my experience because it's kind of fresh. You told me about this and I downloaded it and I kind of used it for some brainstorming business things. But it is very, very rough. Like you said, sometimes there's a gap, in thought processing and things like that, that usually with me and you talking, we can see each other or understand that. But also it's learning me as we're going. So that's pretty cool to understand. Like sometimes I have or this or that. So it's waiting for me. So it's kind of it was hard at first to kind of jump on board to make it fluid, but I knew that every time it's just going to be, my, trying to get over, I'm talking to, my phone or something like that to get some answers. And, whether, I like it because it's less typing and more just kind of, word vomiting if you can, and have like this confidence that somebody is going to be there to understand it as we go. So there's a lot there that I'm excited about. But like you said, it's still learning me. It's still trying to understand that. And I just like more integrations with Pi and ChatGPT to see how those can play nicely. So hopefully there's something in the horizon for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. It's going to be, right now we have this like scatter is where I feel, and I've seen this before with technologies over the years where you kind of have this rat race right now for the rise of the top. And like, there's tons of different like technologies and plugins and things that hook into this. And it's going to be interesting just over the next 6 to 12 months is like kind of who continues to rise to the top. Like if I was ChatGPT, I'd be going to this company Pi, like how could they integrate some of the technologies that are really neat that they're doing into, something that's already out there or vice versa. So there's a lot of opportunity for like some of these companies to kind of come together. But right now it's just kind of a little bit scattered. Each one kind of has some of their own features. And I don't know. I haven't really found a perfectly good working relationship of Pi other than just having some fun. I have used it for some ideas like Carlos. But I'd love to hear feedback from you guys. I am going to continue on with the presentation, but if there's any kind of questions, any kind of feedback like that, drop it in the chat. And then in the survey afterwards, please jump in there, provide us with some feedback so that we can make some of these things better. And it also helps me kind of have some interaction with the group. So any other pieces that we wanted to talk through while we have Q&A session? This is a great time. We got a few minutes left. Is there some questions that you guys have that we could help answer? Anything, you can either put it in the chat and we'll answer, or I can demo something, or it could be something that you want to raise your hand and come to stage for a second and ask. And it could be around anything related to what we just talked about or something slightly off topic around AI.
Yeah. There might be some people there, but just real quickly, how are people using AI in their workflows these days?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah,
I can't find the hand raise button, but I'm definitely using it a lot with my work and experimenting with stuff.
That's great, Adam. Did you have any particular questions that we could answer for you in this session?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. All of this is just so great to get these particular programs. Have you tried using any in collaboration with each other? Because one thing I've done, they can write, you can say write an email or whatever. I have them write messages to each other, explain that's what we're doing, and copy paste between them. Have you tried anything like that?
Yes, in some content writing scenarios, I have actually used some things like Perplexity for an example, and I demoed Perplexity a few weeks ago. If for those of you who have not used it, one of the reasons I like Perplexity is it goes out and scours the internet first and pulls in a lot of data of real time of what's out there. So for up-to-date information or citations that I'm looking for in articles, especially those of you on a call who like, doing SEO content or writing content. I highly recommend if you want to ping me for more information on that, or make sure, I think it was volume 2 where I covered Perplexity, but that's a good example, Adam, where I've used it. And then what I do is I take that one and I took it and then plugged all that data after I massaged it a little bit back into GPT. And I said, take this information and now, regurgitate this or write it in this tone of voice or write it in this format. And I used some custom GPTs that I wrote, maybe for a particular brand or company, to kind of like, rehash that and make it even better. So, because I don't like the output directly from Perplexity, it's a little, it doesn't give me as much massaging of like the tone and voice and stuff like that, or custom GPTs yet. So, but I like the output of like having citations and other data like that. So yes, I definitely have used it. I've seen where it's powerful using one or two. I sometimes, if I'm working on content, and I'm struggling with like the content I'm getting from ChatGPT, even though I prefer to use it first, I will jump over and test another one like Gemini and see if I get better output or something a little more rich of what I'm looking for. Great question. All right, I'm going to jump. Last thing I wanted to cover today is next up. I'm real excited. I think Raphael is going to come next week. He's from Blueprints. We were thinking about having him this week, but he had some conflicts with some work things and was able to make it next week though. But he's going to show off some data and analytics pieces, which are going to be really cool, taking some large data points, plugging it into GPT, and then having it gather information and give us output and like kind of like guidance, like here's a lot of data from my company, or like what, sales or marketing, and I don't know what to do with it, or where are some insights that you can see. And it can look at a whole lot of data really fast and kind of give you feedback on it and graft some things and maybe see some insights that you're not seeing. So that's what he's going to show next week, which I'm excited about. And then I think starting on the 29th, I'm going to start diving into a little bit more creative type stuff, probably with Midjourney and Dolly 3. So real excited about that part. I'm probably going to do like a whole series each week and maybe do a 4-part series week after week and kind of dive into different areas, some of the new stuff that's just come out, and then kind of pull back some old things and really like show people how to use the power of like image generation and put it to use for work related things day to day.
Yeah.
Looks like I need to get the previous episode of Volume 3 in there. I have a placeholder that I need to type and that to
Um,
everybody.
yeah. Nathan,
And
I'm super pumped about March 29th. That's going to be a good series of that from a creative angle that I'm really interested in. Um, Adam had a really cool question that I'm going to dive deeper. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts and webinars about the laws and things like copyright stuff surrounding AI and how that is. Now, I'm not going to be the expert, to speak on that behalf, but great question. That's something that we should probably reach out to see if anybody out there. It's still new. And like I said at the very beginning, it is the wild, wild west out there. It's like we're rushing to California we see gold. It's there. Everybody's using it. I'm super pumped about people using it that way, but there has to be some guardrail rails there. There has to be abilities for us to from me being a brand person and design, I'm always pointing back to guidelines and how to use these. We just started thinking about introducing our ways of thinking to our clients about what's your AI strategy, and a lot of people are like, I don't have one, I don't understand that. So it's still new, not everybody has their finger on it, but that's a great question, Adam, that I'll look into it and dive into seeing if we can get somebody to speak on that.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I put the survey in the chat. So please grab that, guys, and fill out that survey before, as you're heading out, or say, at least get that up. And after the slideshows, please go through that. That's really, really helpful for us. So I can make sure I'm answering exactly what you guys want in some upcoming sessions.
Yeah.
You close this out, Carlos?
Yeah, so thanks everybody for participating. Don't forget the survey, because that's the content that we need, the answers or the questions we need to follow up on, the history of this webinar. We want to keep giving it away for free. That's kind of our mantra, where we want just to give and share. But we also, if you guys run into anything, email us or contact us. And if you want to be a participant on this webinar, yes, please come in and share. We'll give you a 10-minute lightning round of how you use it and things like that, because it's going to benefit us all. So it's the way we started, just by listening, and now we're sharing. So I appreciate everybody for being here, stopping by, and please fill out that survey.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye. You stopping the record piece?
Yeah, I will.
Thanks, Andy, for coming. Eric, Sue, Adam, appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Fantastic time. Look forward to coming back for another session.